Most teenage romances come and go in an instant, but not for Rick and Jolina.
Nice catch.
He had a very deep, deep love. He would drop everything and go back to her.
2 decades later, the fire still smolders,
She still had fling for Rick.
but their relationship takes some rough turns,
I was like, you're hurting a good person.
Look, I'm sorry!
and dark secrets blossom behind closed doors.
You stay out of this.
She did not like her. She tolerated her.
Get your ass out of here!
Because there was so much hatred. It was a lot of tension between them two.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. Denver, Colorado, the mile-high city, filled with upscale restaurants, incredible views, and ample opportunity for 16-year-old Jolina Pryor to find trouble.
Jolina was a little wild child. She was a good girl, but she was wild because of the friends that she hung out with.
But this all changes when a sweet 19-year-old named Rick Klein catches Jolina's attention.
Nice catch.
Not bad. I'm, Rick, by the way.
Jolina.
Oh, so you're the famous Jolina.
Who else could it be?
My mom's mom worked together with, I think, Rick's mom. My grandma was all like, hey, I got a daughter, you got a son, and I think they ended up meeting. My mom was very spontaneous, where Rick was very, let's think about this, very analytical. So that balance really played very nicely.
I don't have to go in yet. It's not even 10 o'clock.
Yeah, but it's a school night for both of us.
I won't tell if you don't.
Come on, Joe. We have homework to do.
You're serious, aren't you?
I'm always serious. Except when I'm with you.
He was a goody two-shoes. He was actually a good influence on my sister. It was a good thing that when they met each other.
But while these teenage sweethearts swear their love is eternal, forever just isn't in the cards.
I just gotta get out of here. You have to understand that.
You're not just leaving town. You're also leaving me. Don't act like you're not.
You could come with.
You know I can't. My mom needs me.
She needs you, or do you need her?
She didn't want to leave Mom.
Wait!
Her and my mom's always had this bond. Always. They had this strong connection.
Here. Don't worry. I'll come back for it.
Rick has recently graduated high school and is dreaming of adventure.
He said, I'm going to join the military to make his father proud.
While Rick is on the high seas, Jolina's world is more down to earth.
She was just trying to get through high school and just trying to get it finished.
But as fate would have it, Jolina soon finds a distraction in the form of Sam Michaels.
Hey, you dropped something. Hey. Sorry, you dropped something. Jolina?
He was a very handsome man. I think the reason why they got together was, one, I believe it was a rebound, but they did fall in love. I think she was just also just trying to find somebody and be happy, and she wanted a family.
But maybe not quite so soon.
You know, her desire was always there. Yeah, I do think, it was kind of, whoa, surprise,
It isn't the only surprise.
Did you put the baby to bed like I asked?
He was very controlling. She was always scared of him, so a lot of times she was afraid to even just give her opinion.
Eating again?
Look at you.
He always told her that she was fat, and she was only 95 pounds. He tried to change everything on her.
And the problems don't end at words.
Give me that.
What? No! No!
I can remember her having a broken arm, and she said she fell down the stairs. But, you know, she didn't want nobody really to know anything.
For 7 years, Jolina, now a mother of 2, stays silent, clinging to her dream of the perfect family. But a dream can only last so long.
You've got to do this.
Honestly, I'm not too sure what made her leave. I think it was just the years of the abuse.
Jolina knows she and her sons will face challenges if she leaves, but this doesn't stop her. And Sam doesn't make it easy. He insists on seeing his kids.
We wanted to see our dad too. As a child, we probably kicking and screaming until we saw our dad.
She was not supposed to allow Sam to see the boys alone. He was only supposed to be supervised. And I guess he threatened her or something. He called services and reported that he was seeing his kids unsupervised. And that's how the boys got taken away. He did it because he was trying to hurt her, because she had a very close bond to her boys.
As Jolina desperately fights for custody of her children, the state has other plans. The boys are first put into foster care, then adopted.
It threw her into a depression state. You know, she lost both her kids.
She wasn't doing very well. They had to put her on anxiety medicines. They had to put her on depression pills. She just felt like she lost her world. She just lost it. I mean, she was just so depressed.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell wonder about Jolina's state of mind.
I could understand deep feelings of frustration with the system, feeling like she'd been railroaded by her husband or ex-husband at that point.
These kids were her heart and soul. She felt like she dedicated her life to them, and now she was without them. And not only does that leave a hole in your heart, but when you spend your days taking care of kids, and now those kids are gone, you're left with a huge amount of time on your hands to sit and think about the fact that they're no longer there. This could lead her to end up being depressed, forlorn. I would be very worried about her during this time.
As Jolina struggles to make the best of a bad hand, her thoughts turn to her first love.
Nice catch.
I'm Rick, by the way.
I believe she was still in love with him. I think when she married Sam, I believe it was more trying to get herself over Rick.
You're not just leaving town. You're also leaving me.
Take it. Don't worry. I'll come back for it.
It's been nearly 10 years since Rick left, but Jolina is pinning her hopes on their upcoming high school reunion.
She wanted to go to the reunion to see if there was anything there left.
And then I came back to the country.
Now you traveled quite a bit.
Yeah. For sure.
Did you ever think of settling down?
Yeah, but it's complicated. I gotta go. It was nice seeing you. Keep in touch.
But much to Jolina's disappointment, Rick's heart has moved on.
Susan was a Navy brat. She was raised around that, and I think he met her there.
So, That's the infamous ex? She looks like a delicate little flower.
There was the tension between her and my sister. You could just tell with her disposition that she's not very friendly.
Is my baby jealous?
As if. Wait, should I be?
Of course not. But it is kind of cute.
And while some people would die for love,
Look, I'm sorry!
Rick, my mom meant everything to him.
others would kill for it.
You stay out of this.
There was a lot of bitterness and a lot of hatred.
After a devastated Jolina Pryor flees an abusive marriage and loses her children, her old flame Rick resurfaces as a close friend, despite his wife's concerns.
Oh my God, look at what Mike Jones looks like now. He looks so old.
Well, that's because we're old.
No.
I mean, just...
That friendship and that relationship was so strong during the high school days and growing up together that when they reconnected, it was just kind of like it's always been the same.
Honey, you know, here we are, years after we break up and we're having a grown-up play date.
You haven't changed a bit. I should never have left.
No, there's nothing we can do about it.
I guess not.
My mom meant everything to him, especially during high school time and things like that. He had a very deep, deep love.
Love that turns into something more.
Look, I'm sorry! I never meant for this to happen!
Well, I guess that makes it okay then. Tell that to your baby girl.
Knowing my sister, I don't think she felt very good about it. But I believe with the feelings that she had for Rick was one of the reasons why she did keep up.
The fact that Rick is leaving his wife for Jolina should be a tremendous red flag for her, because oftentimes one person who's willing to cheat will cheat again.
Jolina seems to be doing what a lot of people do, which is to idealize, romanticize, fantasize about this idea of love conquering all and love always being the answer and love being undeniable, you have to pursue it.
Rick decides to follow his heart, no matter the cost.
Shortly after that, they got married. Pretty fast thing.
I remember them saying there was a TV crew that came by and they had saw them doing the wedding. They had filmed them and did a little interview on them when they got married.
It's a dramatic start to their new life, but their dreams are much more domestic. Rick's working as a trucker, while Jolina stays home. And when Rick's daughter Addison joins them on weekends, they're the portrait of a beautiful family. But something's still missing. Jolina's boys. And they're missing Jolina, too.
I asked my mom, my adopted mom, I said, hey, what is my mom's name? You know, what is her last name? And she gave me that name. So I wrote her a message and was like explaining everything, who I was, how old I was, everything that I did. Knowing that she wasn't very active, I wrote every single one of her friends saying, hey, my name's Aaron, you know, I'm the biological son of Jolina. Can you help me get in touch with her? So Rick saw that.
Jolina, come here. I just got the craziest message from Aaron. Look.
And I had a message from Rick, and I had a message from my mom, a huge, huge letter kind of saying, hey, we're so excited, and things like that. And then we called and we talked on the phone.
Hi, Aaron? I just got your message. Yeah, it's your mom.
It was crazy. It was kind of like, whoa. I mean, that happened immediately.
The joy, you wouldn't believe the joy on her face. Her attitude changed. She was just started getting back to the old Jolina.
And after 9 years, Jolina and Aaron finally meet again.
I wanted to experience and develop that relationship even more. So I moved out here.
Jolina throws herself into the role of doting mother.
Seriously, Mom, this is not a good picture.
Oh, any picture of you is a good picture, baby.
She even takes Aaron's girlfriend under her wing.
She was one of those people that even though you were a complete stranger, you weren't a complete stranger when you walked in the house.
Who wants punch?
The family affair doesn't stop there. Jolina's mother is now living with them, too.
And Jolina wanted my mom always there with her. She was very close. They had this bond.
I put in just the tiniest bit of Irish cream in the hot chocolate.
Luckily, Rick and his mother-in-law are 2 peas in a pod.
My grandma loved Rick. You know, they had a very strong relationship.
Are my best girls having a party without me? Coming in? So that's better. But my best girl is still not here. Addison?
And Rick's equally devoted to his daughter.
Oh, if it's not the Princess of Pensacola. You ready for bed? Huh? Yeah?
He loves Addison. He loved her tremendously.
Bedtime, smarty pants. Let's go.
Rick was a phenomenal dad. You know, he made sure she had everything she needed.
Everything but discipline, or so some believe.
Addie, where's your homework?
So Susan was a very strict parent.
Susan thought he was too lax all the time, and he thought that she was too harsh all the time.
Don't tell me your dad just let you watch TV all weekend. Get in the car. Seriously? You give her back to me without her homework done for the week? I know you're a loser, but do you want your daughter to be one too?
Okay, let's tone it down a little. I think she actually...
Excuse me? You stay out of this.
The relationship between Susan and my mom was not good. Was not good at all.
You can't even hold on to your own kids anyway.
That's not fair.
Look, that's enough, Susan. You can cuss me out later.
Yeah, I bet you will.
What?
Just bye.
And as tempers flare,
There was some either bitterness, some saltiness going on that really impacted the both of them.
a fire smolders in the Klein home.
I swear to God, I don't know what I was thinking.
I was like, you're hurting a good person.
You do that. You leave.
Devoted husband and father Rick Klein is building a life for his new family, despite a bitter ex-wife and spending far too much time on the road.
He would be gone for 2 weeks and go home for a week, and that was his schedule as a truck driver. She was accustomed to it with him being gone a lot, but she always wanted him home.
To help with her loneliness, Jolina turns to role-playing games on the internet.
In these games, you can have friends, and these friends are real people on another screen, somewhere on the other side.
Thanks, Mama.
I'm off. So, what are you doing for the rest of the night? You know, staring at a computer screen all night's not very good for your eyes.
My beautiful, beautiful eyes.
Yes, baby girl. Your beautiful eyes. All right.
I think that she just liked it because even though she had a lot of anxiety, she always wanted to interact with people. She didn't feel comfortable interacting with people outside.
Well, not all people. In time, Jolina's second life takes over.
It's crazy to finally meet you in real life.
There was this dude named Jonathan. Those two were very, very close. They had a really good friendship.
Far too good for a married woman.
You need to leave now while I'm still being a decent guy. Now.
Rick, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You're just away so much, Rick. I swear to God, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm going crazy without you. I don't love him.
He was still in love with her. They wanted to work through the marriage, and I guess she promised him that she would not talk to him anymore, and from what I know is she never did.
And with her promise, the affair fades into the past.
They were like, okay, we're gonna start fresh. We're gonna start like we're a brand new married couple. I think he just had that type of love for her. I think, he was like, look, I do love you. And, I want this to continue. I want this to work out.
Soon after, the fragile couple, especially Jolina, is hit hard when Jolina's mother dies.
When my grandma did pass, it did affect my mom in a very negative way. It did take her back into a deep state of depression. She got to a point to where she wanted to sleep with my grandma's ashes. She would put them right there on the bed. My mom did not like to be away from my grandma. Maybe that was just another sense of, hey, her feeling close with her mom.
But Rick views Jolina's nighttime ritual a little differently.
It definitely had an impact. When sleeping on the ashes, now they're sleeping in two completely different rooms, beds, because he didn't want that. It impacted him pretty big.
While it looks unusual for someone like Jolina to be sleeping with her mother's ashes, and it is unusual, I sort of understand what's going on with her. She did suffer a lot of loss in her life. She is someone who seems like the type who would want to cling on to every bit of anyone she cared about. And I think that in her mind, that is what she's doing.
I don't fault Rick for not understanding why Jolina would be wanting to sleep with her mom's ashes. It is, I think, clearly outside of sort of the normal range of grieving behavior. At the same time, though, what I like to see is when one member of a couple is having a crisis, the other member is really trying to understand, trying to help the person. If they can't help, then trying to get help for the person. And instead, it seems like Rick is sort of just withdrawing.
While Jolina seems to be breaking down, it's Rick, not his wife, who ends up in the hospital.
Rick had a heart attack in July of 2014, and he was out of work. Rick was behind in his child support. Jolina did not work. So I think things were definitely strained financially in their household.
His health not being so great, and then her health not being so great, I think it was a lot of stress on both of them.
We're not gonna make it to the end of the month.
What do you want me to say? And I'm sorry I had a heart attack?
That's not what I'm saying. I was just thinking maybe we could ask Susan to give us a break on child support.
Don't bring her into this. She's a great mom.
What, are you defending her now?
I think I'm gonna leave before I say something I regret.
Yeah, you do that. You leave.
There was some bitterness, some saltiness going on that really impacted the both of them.
That saltiness makes Rick spend less time at home. He's either on the road or visiting his daughter nearby.
Hi, sweetie. I need to talk to your mom first. Is that okay? Hi. You think I could give you the money later next week? I'm waiting on a check.
Yeah, right. What will it be next time?
Look, I'm sorry. Times are tough.
I know. Hey, do you want some coffee?
Left alone, Jolina finds a way to cope.
She was always on her computer from the time she woke up to the time she went to bed.
And once again, Jolina's virtual world consumes her.
Jolina first encountered Spiked Jesus, or Joseph, through the internet. It blossomed very quickly. They initially started off as friends, and then within a very short amount of time, they were talking about 12 hours a day. Some of it was sexual in nature. I know that they sent some provocative images of themselves. I know that they told each other they loved each other.
But she doesn't tell him everything.
Jolina had been leading Joseph on to believe that she was younger than she actually was. He also was not aware that she was married.
And as the secrets start to build, Jolina and Rick's marriage begins to fall apart.
So it was just kind of all these things crumbling around her.
With deadly results.
She went over there and told her and basically rubbed it in her face.
Crushed by her mother's death, Jolina Klein seeks refuge in an online affair, while her husband Rick spends more and more time with his daughter Addie and Addie's mother Susan, Rick's ex.
Here. Okay. Can I help you?
Your marriage is over.
What are you talking about?
You took my man, and I'm taking him back.
You're lying.
She went over there and told her and basically rubbed it in her face. Well, you cheated with my husband, now I'm cheating with yours, basically.
Karma's a bitch, right? If you steal someone's man, you deserve to lose him.
You're crazy. Get your ass out of here! Get out!
It was in complete shock to find that out. Rick never said anything good about Susan, and Susan never said anything good about Rick.
Aaron, baby.
Jolina was very upset.
Susan was just here.
She was very upset. I think she felt betrayed. I think she felt sad. And again, her mother had just passed away, so it was just kind of all these things crumbling around her.
Clearly, Rick and Jolina have very limited coping skills and ability to problem solve. And since they don't have those abilities, they seek something to help them escape from whatever it is they're dealing with in the moment. So for Rick, his escape is to go back to Susan. And Jolina escapes into the fantasy world of online gaming, where she can create a whole separate persona, be a whole new person, and have a whole new life.
It really looks like Rick and Jolina both are sort of waking up to the fact that The fantasy that they were chasing when they got back together is not recreatable.
In a mirror image of a night some years before, the pair faces a major crisis.
I don't know exactly the conversations that happened, but you could tell that the relationship was not the same after that point. You could start to see things going down. That was kind of the first domino.
And it's not long before others begin to fall.
So it was a Wednesday night, and we were at like a kind of a Bible study. Someone had tried calling us, kept calling and calling and calling.
Well, while we were at the Bible study, I got a message on a social media platform. It was from Madison, and she said, "Hey, have you heard from my dad today?" And I said, "No." And she wrote me back and she said, "Well, the car's missing and I haven't heard from him. Today's my birthday."
So my wife and I drive back to my mom's house.
Do we still have the spare?
I think I took it off because we never use it.
Where's Zoe?
I hear Zoe, the dog, barking, but she's not barking at the door. She's barking off in the distance. I'm like, whoa. My mom loves that dog. If they're going anywhere, they're taking that dog.
Zoe's very much a guard dog. As soon as the doorbell rings or she hears a knock, she wants to know who's there.
Something's not right.
She was barking, but she wasn't at the door, which I thought was really, really weird.
At this point, panic creeps in.
You better call the cops.
During that time, she actually found the key to the house.
But something tells Aaron not to use it.
I look at my wife and I go, we can't. We have to just wait. We have to wait for the sheriff's office to get here.
Deputies made entry into the home. When they made their way to the back bedroom, it was locked. So they had to force the door open, use force to get it.
When they open the bedroom door, she is on the floor.
The victim is Jolina.
The body was in the late stages of decomposition. It was a gruesome scene.
I think at a first glance you could tell that some sort of struggle may have taken place. If you looked at the bed, the top sheet had some blood and maybe some urine staining on it, like something perhaps had started on the bed and then ended up on the floor. She's got a pillow over her face. She had some bruising on her head. She had some bruising on her tongue. She had some bruising on her arm, which painted a picture that obviously someone had done something to her and this had been a struggle. I think it was pretty evident based on the condition of her body that she'd been there for a few days.
Aaron and I were kind of just waiting outside. One came out. We're about to walk into the house, and he stopped us and he said, "You can't go in there."
They tell us, there's a woman who has been found, and you knew, it was, we knew who it was.
And so it was just a very sudden realization of what was going on.
That whole reality came crashing down. I went into a complete state of shock.
I understand this is difficult, but I have some questions.
I began asking, well, when was the last time you talked to your mother? When was the last time you talked to Rick? If there was anything going on, if they had any enemies where somebody might have, kidnapped him, killed her.
As investigators consider all angles, Aaron breaks the news to the rest of the family.
So, I had to make all the phone calls to my grandpa my aunt and my Aunt Dorothy.
First thing that popped in my head was that possibly Susan did it. I thought it was Susan.
Dorothy, she thought Susan might have something to do with it because of the tension between the two over the affair.
There was so much hatred. A lot of tension between them two.
Why confront her about the affair?
Well, he was my husband first.
Where have you been the last week, ma'am?
At home, working.
She had a pretty good story. We checked it out and everything, that she told us we could verify. So at that point in time, no, she was not a suspect.
But back at the crime scene, police may have just found someone who is.
She certainly was having these conversations online with another man.
And while police are eager to find out more about Spike Jesus,
he could have certainly come into the home and committed the homicide.
They aren't sure if they have one victim or two.
At this point, we didn't know if Rick was dead, alive.
When Jolina Klein is found murdered, police raise the possibility of a second victim and quickly begin a search for her missing husband, Rick.
We put out a bulletin because at this point we didn't know if Rick was involved, dead, alive. We didn't know anything. So we put a bulletin out.
Investigators use every possible method to find him.
We were inquiring about the cell phones, but we were informed by the cell phone company that they had been turned off for a few days. We found out that he had used his ATM card at 2 Navy Federal Credit Union ATMs. So we were able to get the video footage, and he had withdrawn all the money out of both his account and Jolina's account. So at that point, we knew, hey, we gotta look into Rick and find this guy because he's got something to do with this.
Investigators are certain Rick is on the run. But just where could he be running to?
Law enforcement was kind of stifled in what to do next. And there was a lady who worked at a car financing lot who was watching the news and saw Rick's face in the news, and she realized that he was a customer of the car lot. He had purchased a vehicle from that car lot, and because it was financed, it was attached with GPS. It had a GPS tracking device on it. So she actually reached out to law enforcement and said, oh my gosh, this man is a customer of ours, and there's a tracking device on it, and she actually started tracking it.
They track Rick to Savannah, Georgia, and he's heading north. When they finally track Rick down, it's obvious he packed for the long haul.
They could see the cooler and all his stuff, clothes and bags in the vehicle. So the police department, they knocked on the window, tried to wake him up. He woke up, and they arrested him.
So you're requesting an attorney?
Yes.
So you don't want to talk to me at all?
No.
When I was speaking with Rick when he was in custody, his demeanor was like he knew this was going to happen, was not emotional at all. It was like he had already prepared himself.
Though the case against Rick is largely circumstantial, once he's arrested, a crucial piece of evidence appears.
2 months after the homicide, Susan brought a letter to the sheriff's office.
Susan received the letter the day before Richard was arrested.
Rick in the letter described kind of his relationship with Jolina and referred to her as a nightmare. You could tell after reading the letter that Rick really despised and hated Jolina.
Law enforcement was under the impression that it was, basically a confession.
Armed with the letter and Rick's suspicious disappearance, law enforcement is confident they have their man, even though unknown DNA was found during the investigation.
There was an unknown profile of DNA that was found on some of the bracelets. There was not enough to match it to somebody or to exclude somebody. Aaron had testified that he gave some of those bracelets to his mother, and certainly it could have been his.
On October 28, 2014, Rick Klein is charged. The case goes to trial 2 years later. The defense tries to explain away Rick's letter. He swears it's not a confession, it's a suicide note.
He said that he left and was gone because he was going to go commit suicide because he was out of money, couldn't deal with Jolina anymore.
But it's not an easy sell.
He was in a hotel in Savannah, Georgia for 7 days, had plenty of opportunity to do it then, and then left there, still fleeing, goes to Chattanooga.
The defense also brings up the mysterious DNA. While DA Bridget Jensen sees it as a red herring, the defense views it as a way out.
The defense was certainly hammering the fact that there was this unknown DNA profile and this unknown person out there that could have certainly come into the home and committed the homicide of Jolina. At that time during the trial, the defense was certainly hammering the fact that Jolina was having an affair with this unknown online man.
What they were trying to argue is that it was a Spike Jesus.
The theory is enough to cause doubt.
It was a hung jury because of the defense bringing up Spike Jesus and the unknown DNA profile. It gave them enough reasonable doubt.
Rick is released. There will have to be a second trial. But the bigger issue is that the prosecution now has to find Spike Jesus.
I was on a mission to find who he was, where he was, and to get in contact with him at any length that I possibly could. I actually started combing through the computer records from Jolina's computer. I found the individual Spike Jesus, and she actually had entered some information for him. I got his name, I had a telephone number, and I saw that he was in Montreal, Canada. I got copies of his passport transport records, which showed that he'd never been to Florida.
He was a young man, basically a victim in everything, too.
With Spike Jesus cleared, DA Jensen is confident she knows what happened.
I believe the night Jolina was murdered, she had been online with Spike Jesus. Her last outgoing conversation with him was at 1:54 that morning. I believe Rick may have gone into the computer room and seen this conversation between her and Spike Jesus. I think there was an argument that probably ensued inside the bedroom.
I can't believe you did it again. And you judged me about Susan?
What are you talking about?
I saw your chats.
What? That's impossible. You don't. No!
After he murdered Jolina, I believe at that point, he packed his belongings. He put the dog in the room with her. He put a water bowl in there. And I believe he left the area.
Though the details remain a mystery, what the prosecution does know is enough to convince a jury.
At the end of the second trial, Rick was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison.
As far as I could tell, he never showed any signs of remorse. He never showed any signs of guilt.
People with sociopathic personalities believe their own stories. And I think that Rick bought into the good guy Rick. He never looked at any of his inappropriate and negative behaviors as bad. He always viewed it as following his heart and doing the right thing.
And then when things didn't go the fantasy way that he had hoped with Jolina, then I bet Jolina became the victimizer of him and the one who had cost him this wonderful life that he had, which he didn't think was wonderful before, with Susan. And that victimization was big enough in his mind that he could kill Jolina over it.
Part of me wants to know why he did it, but then there's a part of me that just says, just let it be, and it's just gonna destroy everything even more.
Jolina's family struggles to move on.
We had his sentencing, and I let him know, Rick, our family forgives you. That is a very difficult thing to say, first of all. It is not easy, and I still struggle with that on a sense of, do I really forgive him? Because, I had 4 years with my mom. That's all I had.
What Aaron does have is a daily reminder of his mother.
Zoe is very much like my mom, very quirky in a lot of different ways. It's very special to both my wife and I that we got to keep Zoe and hang on to her. As you know, this is the closest thing that my mom had, and now it's, the closest thing that's part of our lives now, too.